This Sunday on Press Pass, a $60 million bribery scheme, a nuclear plant bailout, and one of the largest money laundering cases in Ohio history. All of that is what led up to the arrest of Ohio House Speaker Larry Householder and four others this past week. Officials say it's in connection to a taxpayer-funded bailout of two nuclear plants in Ohio, and that's now leading to an effort to repeal House Bill 6. Joining us this morning is one of the lawmakers leading the effort to repeal that, State Senator Sean O'Brien. Sean, thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. What was your initial reaction to this investigation and the findings? Were you shocked? Was this something you had heard rumblings about?
Yeah, it was shocking is the amount of money that was being spent and the allegation of the $60 million. I mean, we heard that, you saw the TV commercials, the letters that were sent out, and those types of things going on. So you knew they were spending money, but I never realized they were spending $60 million. And obviously the racketeering, the conspiracy, the bribery, all that going on as well. That was very shocking.
Did anyone say that they noticed the lobbyists and the one that's alleged in this case to have been involved, on Capitol Hill, working their connections, at everyone's office, trying to get support?
Yeah, I didn't know the law. I don't know the lobbyists that were involved, and you see them around, but and the question really is how many more are going to be implicated. We heard that AEP may be having one of their main people implicated. So the investigation's still going on, and it looks like there's going to be other people named in this conspiracy.
Okay, and I'm sure everyone's just waiting to see if they're the ones that get the knock on the door with the subpoenas or the questions from the FBI, because they said they're coming. Originally, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine did not approve of the repeal of this. Then he kind of reversed trend later in the week and decided he is going to do that. Does that show solidarity, in terms of getting more confidence back in the Ohio General Assembly and Ohio politics as it stands right now? I think there's a lot of distrust and a lot of questions from taxpayers.
Yeah, and that's part of why I introduced the bill to straight repeal House Bill 6. I think that public confidence is eroded, and we have to have complete transparency, and we need to have everyone seeing how the process works out. So that's why I introduced the bill. I think the governor saw that and then realized, hey, that's probably the right thing to do. So with the bill we introduced on Friday, we do have, out of 33 senators, we do have 17 already signed on as co-sponsors of that bill. So I think it's going to move to the Senate. We'll see what happens in the House. With the speaker, he said he's not stepping down. So what does that mean? Are they going to have to remove him? Or, it depends what happens in the House. But in the Senate, one thing, I was on the committee that heard that there were none of these shenanigans going on. I was impressed with the chairman of the committee. He ran a great committee. I didn't support the bill then, and I obviously don't support it now. But I think what happened in the Senate clearly is not what happened in the House, and I think we'll have a good hearing there.
You haven't accepted any donations from First Energy for your campaigns, have you? Because Ohio Governor Mike DeWine has in the past, though they're not named specifically in this affidavit, right?
Yeah, a big company like that makes donations throughout, to almost every member in the General Assembly. So I'm sure, every member has had some type of donation from First Energy. I don't know about the new company, the Gen Now or whatever that 501c4 was, if every member's had money from that. I know mine hasn't had it from that committee. But when you have a big company like that, there are a lot of donations that go out throughout the entire General Assembly.
Does it give you concern then that there's this underlying, pay to play situation, and a company can be so big and so powerful that, maybe it was likely that everyone turned their head and looked the other way when all those ads were hitting the airways? I know the governor took a lot of tough questions about why he didn't question what was going on with how much money was spent.
And I think that's the big problem is campaign finance. I think what happened with the speaker is just the tip of the iceberg. The fundamental problem underneath is campaign financing. And I think that's what we have to focus on. Once we repeal House Bill 6, we have to look at campaign financing. We have to have transparency. People have to know who's giving money. what organizations that they're following the law. Under a 501c4, none of that applies. You can give money to this entity and it's all dark money. And that's what gets us in those types of problems.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, because, of course, I just mentioned First Energy not mentioned in the affidavit. The company had their earnings report, and reporters listen in on this weekly or monthly as often as they provide them. And one of the things that the CEO said, he said, "I believe First Energy acted properly in this manner. We intend to fully cooperate with the investigation," so on and so on. And this was, a direct quote from the Columbus Dispatch. Do you believe that First Energy acted ethically?
I mean, it's too early. I mean, from what I've seen in the affidavit by the FBI, I would think not. But again, I don't want to say anything until I see and all the evidence comes out. But if you see, if the allegations are proven true, then they definitely do not act ethically. When you put that kind of money in a C-104 or 551, in that type of entity, you're not acting at all ethically. You're using that apparatus to spread dark money, to influence people, to get your will done illegally. And I don't think that's being ethical at all.
And you actually questioned in one of the reports that we had prior to this passing that you didn't get to see First Energy's books so they could prove that they needed the bailout and the money, or whatever you want to call it, taxpayer, money that's going to be charged starting 2021 on everyone's bill. It's $1.50. But, tell me a little bit about your concerns initially. Does this now not surprise you?
Well, I mean, just the way the whole thing went down is surprising. And then, the bailout in and of itself, it costs taxpayers and ratepayers money. If you look at what's been going on with First Energy since 2000, they've had about a $1.2 billion bailout over the last 20 years. And this is just adding to it. It just keeps going. If you want to know the price of corruption, look at your utility bill. And I think what we have to do is legislators stand up and say, this is enough is enough. And that's why I opposed House Bill 6 when it first came through. These nuclear power plants are, unfortunately, an example would be like, we don't use Blockbuster anymore because it's inundated. Unfortunately, these nuclear power plants are the same. And the thing is, too, they just don't shut off. You have to close them down. It takes about 20 years to shut them down because of the nuclear power. They have money set aside to do that. So it's very concerning to continually to bail out this company at the taxpayer and ratepayers' expense.
Real quick, what's the next step on the repeal so that we know what's the next thing for the headlines?
The next thing that will happen is we'll get a committee and the bill will move on to through the committee process.
All right, well, it will be very telling to see who does and does not support. I really appreciate your time today and explaining, your involvement in all of this. A lot of questions, and, hopefully we can get back with you soon, especially that impact on the Lordstown power plant. You think that maybe this, if it's repealed, could maybe positively affect our valley?
Well, definitely affected because we've talked with Bill Seidowitz, and they couldn't compete with when the nukes get those types of bailouts. Gas is hurt, and we had $1 billion third generation power plant supposed to start, and that has delayed it because of the bailout. So we'll see what happens now with the repeal of House Bill 6, where it moves from there.
All right, a lot of things at stake. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.